What's up everybody, it's Lester Perch Pink here, and today we have a bit of a different challenge video. Normally I do videos that are simply the traditional can I beat so-and-so Pokemon game, the week Pokemon, or a move theme challenge. But today, I want to go a different angle that would test my foresight and abilities as a player. Can I beat Pokemon Ruby without taking damage? Now I can already hear y'all in the comment section, oh well, dumb thief Mitten Squad did Pokemon Emerald without taking damage recently. Yes, I am well aware of this, but I started filming this challenge video in late February, and it just so happened that Mitten Squad had released their video whenever I was in the process of playing the game. I'd literally just beaten Drake, and I saw that video pop up. Besides, this isn't a simple challenge run that is straightforward in nature, you know, much like my Shuckle run. This is one that can be done in many different ways and with unique experiences along the way. You can check out both of our challenges to see how they differ and overlap. Anyway, disclaimer aside, let's get into the rules. No taking damage. That one's a given. That being said though, reverting to safe states is allowed, but not in battle. Yes, I know most others who do no damage runs usually restart the run if they take damage, but I believe that rule would be better executed in a stream setting. 2,000 likes for no damage stream? Maybe? Besides, early game would have been absolutely miserable without states. Don't worry though, my saves were far and few between. That's pretty much it. There aren't a lot of rules, but the difficulty of the challenge makes up for it. Now, let's get on with it. The decision making starts right at the first Pokemon. I decided to go with Trico because of Sceptile's godly speed stats and great special attack. That would have been a good choice, but what should be the first 20 minutes of the game proved difficult with Trico as my starter. First things first, the Poochyena fight. In theory, Emerald Zigzagoon would have been preferable as it knows both Tackle and Growl, which would have increased our chances of winning this fight. However, Poochyena only knows Tackle, which means we're pretty much guaranteed to take damage, so the only way we could win is if it misses enough times for Trico to take it out unscathed, which has a pretty low chance, might I add. It usually takes 3 hits to take it out, and even if Poochyena missed its first tackle, the odds of it missing its second are slim. To make this worse, I was being picky about my natures as well. At first I wanted a special attack increasing nature that would lower defense or special defense. Then when I realized my odds of winning the fight were still low if I was super picky about the nature, I ended up adding neutral natures to my notes. Yes, I had a notepad of usable natures next to me. I was absolutely ready to do them big brain plays. After resetting so many times though, and eventually realizing that getting a nature that was acceptable to me plus winning the fight would be very, very time consuming, I just started going balls to the walls and attempting the fight over and over, not caring at that point if I got the nature that I wanted. Eventually, I won the fight after getting Poochyena under half health from 1 pound and it missing the tackle. Then it was free range to take out. Finally, we're free of this Poochyena fight! At last, we get to set out on our adventure in Hoenn. Well, not exactly. I found that Trico was just not going to work for this run. Grinding would be out of the question at this point without the excessive use of saves and good RNG, and I found that in a purist, no damage run, this would be near impossible to pull off. I wanted my run to theoretically be possible with no saves, so I chose to do the Brendan fight immediately. Here's why Trico isn't good for a no damage run. It lacks an early game, or at the very least, this fight in particular. With a lower attack stat than special, Pound doesn't do a whole lot of damage. Of course, Trico learns Absorb at level 6, so even if we scummed our way to that level by grinding on encounters, it's still a weak attack and will do next to nothing to Brendan's Torchic. Torchic also knows Growl, which lowers Trico's already puny power. Besides, grass types are at a slight disadvantage in Ruby with Pokemon resistant to the type early on, so after I attempted Brendan many times, I pretty much just accepted that Trico is a no-go. I reset my file and instead tried out Torchic. Already from square one, Torchic was far superior to Trico. Torchic has higher attack due to its evolutions being fire fighting, and I found it to be far more versatile in this run. It only took a few tries before the mighty Poochyena fell. Now guys, look. I know in my previous run I had a Pokemon named after a JoJo character, and I absolutely tried to not do it this time around. I spent like 10 minutes trying to think of a name, but KFC was the only other one I could come up with. So our little Torchic's name is Magician's Red, because, well, Fire Chicken. Don't worry, I'm sure that'll be the only Pokemon we have be a JoJo reference. It turns out that the Torchic we obtained had a hasty nature, which is actually pretty solid for a run like this. Hasty capitalizes on speed while lowering defense, and any defense or special defense lowering natures are the best for this run, as both of those stats are unnecessary. Now back to Brendan's fight. One of the other reasons I ended up getting Torchic is because Brendan will get a Mudkip who has Tackle, which again has only 95% accuracy in this game. Basically, this fight is just an RNG fest, praying for crits, praying for misses, and simply hoping that our Magician's Red won't take any damage. It takes several more attempts, but not too long in the grand scheme of things. Scratch crits first thing and drops Mudkip below half health. Mudkip misses its tackle and we go for another scratch. Again, there's another miss, and another scratch is sufficient to take it out. With the first two roadblocks of the game out of the way, we are officially ready to embark on this journey. Up until this point, there's been little strategy utilized, and it's mostly been praying for good RNG, but now it's really time to get this challenge started. Route 102 is our first grinding spot of the game. On this route, there are a variety of Pokemon, but most importantly, we can find Seedot here. Seedot is a Pokemon that only knows Bide and Harden at this point in the game. While that would be bad as a Pokemon for this challenge, it is an absolutely amazing Pokemon to grind on. Harden is merely a status raising move, and Bide is an interesting attack. Bide is a move in which the Pokemon sacrifices its ability to attack for 2 turns in favor of taking damage. Then it will return twice the amount of damage it received. With careful usage of moves and biding our own time, we are easily able to grind up on Seedots without the risk of taking damage. Lucky for us as well, Torchic learns Ember at level 10, which will definitely OHKO all Seedots, making the process faster. I ended up finding a Ralts before hitting level 9. Now, I'll be the first to admit that I didn't have much foresight and didn't have a solid team plan, but I know that Gardevoir is a powerful asset with its high special attack and fair speed stat. And besides, when you find a 4% Ralts, you might as well catch it. Also, Ralts doesn't know any offensive moves at this point, so it's a pretty safe catch. It sported a neutral nature, that being bashful, which is absolutely fine by me. No stats that might be important were lowered, though an increase in speed or special would have been nice. The matter of training Narantia was a little different than Magician's Red. While I was sure that my Torchic could run away from fights that she couldn't OHKO in, I knew that there was a chance that Narantia couldn't, so I kept Magician's Red out front just in case. Then, after I would find a Seedot, I would switch out to Narantia, then switch back into Magician's Red to finish the fight. This got a tad annoying at times, but it's much better safe than sorry. At level 6, Ralts learns Confusion, but I was still wary if I could outspeed everything on the route. One Pokemon with good speed IVs or a speed increasing nature traps us, and we have to revert back to our previous save state. I will say that the Pokemon Damage Calculator is an impeccable and indispensable tool for runs like these. Not only does it give outcomes about whether or not a move will OHKO, it will also give great estimations about who will outspeed who. I used this to gauge when I could throw Narantia out into the fray without worrying. I trained and trained on this route for the longest time. It sounds pathetic, but I trained Magician's Red until she evolved into Combuskin. Better safe than sorry is the best saying for this. At this point, she had the moves Ember, Peck, Focus Energy, and Double Kick. A great move pool for early game, and frankly, a lot of these moves stayed with me throughout the run because of my lack of foresight. With these moves, I was able to sweep Route 102 without worrying and head on to Petalburg. After watching Wally catch an impossible Ralts, we head to the south section of Route 104. There's really nothing here of note except for youngster Billy, which you should absolutely avoid due to the fact that he has a Taillow. At level 8, Taillow learns Quick Attack, which is a priority move, and unless your Combuskin is level 25 with its own Quick Attack, which mine wasn't, I would recommend steering clear of this trainer. Priority moves are a big danger in runs like these, and that's why Bulbapedia was my friend when routing. Speaking of, another thing I just wanted to mention is that Rich Boy Winston was flexing all the way back in 2002. Not only does he notoriously use a full restore before the first gym of the game, but upon looking at the item his Zigzagoon has, it's holding a nugget. My dude, you're 18 years too early on Instagram flex culture. Calm down! Petalburg Woods is our next destination. Not too much to say, except for the fact that it's simple with our overleveled Combuskin, the Magma Grunt fight included. We're not quite done with Petalburg Woods yet, but the key story events are done here, so we'll return to it later. The north section of Route 104 doesn't have any trainers with priority moves, though with me being the idiot that I am, I felt that the twin fight was necessary if you had more than one Pokemon, which, spoiler alert, it isn't. With that in mind though, I knew I wasn't ready for Roxanne yet if I was afraid of 2 little girls, and that I needed more than one Pokemon up in levels. Thus began yet another grind. I wasn't specifically grinding for Roxanne, but she wasn't far from my mind. Even with having a fighting type attack on my side, I knew that my level wasn't sufficient enough to OHKO all her Pokemon. So not only was I going to attempt to get Narantia up in levels, I was also working to get Magician's Red up there as well. But I thought to myself, why train Magician's Red up so many levels when I could have a Pokemon that has a solid type advantage over Roxanne? My logic was that a Grass-type Pokemon could be a good asset to the team, especially since in the beginning it had been my plan to get a Trico. So I scooped up a Seedot, it being a safe catch, and its evolution being a pretty solid Pokemon. Unfortunately though, it takes an absolute century for Seedot to get any attacking moves, and the one it does is Nature Power, which is pretty much useless in our grinding spot. So training this thing was miserable, and to make things worse, the Seedot I caught had an adamant nature, which is probably the worst possible nature I could have on this Pokemon in its evolutions. After a while of grinding it in Narantia on Route 102 and in Petalburg Woods, I pretty much realized that it was useless to train this Pokemon any further. The only time it returns in this run is as an HM slave, so rest in peace, Risotto. The grind was slow, and honestly, I was just itching for something to happen at this point. I got Magician's Red until level 28, and after doing some calculations calculations with the showdown tool, I knew I could take down Roxanne's team in a series of Okos. Though, this was the point in which I realized that I was going to have to overtrain for bigger fights, as upon looking up the stats for gym leader Pokemon, I realized that there was zero information on them. I found someone saying that the Natures, Eevees, and Ivies were random for gym leaders, and although I'm unsure if this is true, there was still no available information on them. This would mean that I couldn't take accurate calculations if I didn't know the stats and such. So what I had to do was I always put in a special defense or defense increasing nature for the opposing Pokemon depending on what I was attacking with, and just saw if it took it out, and then overtrained. I couldn't even find any information on the stats for the Elite Four, so basically our policy, again, is better safe than sorry. Roxanne was simple with how high a level Magician's Red was. Speed would really be no worry regardless with the typings of the opposing Pokemon, and Double Kick would one-shot all of her rock types. Basically, it was a simple sweep. The next Pokemon I wanted to catch was an Incada. I thought it would be super cool to have a Ninjask, a super fast Pokemon, and a Shedinja, which has Wonder Guard, and it should be obvious why I'd want to catch like that. A little spoiler alert though, I never ended up using either of these Pokemon. And I just thought that I should drop this little detail here so that you all wouldn't get confused when seeing a new Pokemon in my party, and to further contribute to the fact that I had no idea what I was doing during this playthrough. I also want to mention that Shedinja is an extremely risky catch, so in a hardcore run, I'd just skip out on it altogether. After a simple battle with a Magma Grunt and retrieving the Devon goods, we're ready to head to Dewford. Here, I scooped up the Silk Scarf, just to power up those quick attacks if needed. I absolutely knew I wasn't prepared for the second gym. Brawly's Machop would go down easily enough, but it was his Makuhita I was really worried about. I knew that Magician's Red didn't pack enough of a punch to one-shot, and because Brawly is unnecessary for any useful HM, I decided to skip over him for a bit, but you better be ready, because whenever I see him next, it's on sight! I decided to head to Slateport first. My reasoning is twofold. One, I want to get a bit more experience before Brawly, as there are some Magma Grunts to vibe check, and two, I want to deliver the Devon goods. Once you deliver them, you can head back to Devonstone and he'll give you an experience share as a reward. At the time, I was carrying around a lot of undertrained Pokemon with Magician's Red as my ace, so getting this item would be vital. With the experience share in hand, I can safely grind up my team. I chose Granite Cave as my designated training spot, as there are some low-level Pokemon that will go down fast. Route 110 would have been a nice area, had it not been for all the annoying electric types with priority moves. Granite Cave was perhaps the quickest place to gain experience at this point. Eventually, Magician's Red assumed her final form, and Brawly was ours for the taking. In retrospect, it might have been better to focus on training Neuroncia for this fight, but hey, it doesn't hurt to have an ultra over-leveled Pokemon on your side for something like this. As expected, with Magician's Red's new and improved powers, Brawly's Pokemon fell to her furious double kicks. With that, we have the Knuckle Badge under our belt and only 6 more gyms to go. I scooped up an Oddish after arriving back on Route 110. As you can see, I was desperately clambering to get a grass type for Brendan's Marsh Stomp. There was also a certain pair of leaders that I was worried about that I wanted to tackle with Razor Leaf, which in retrospect was a horrible idea, and you'll see how I deal with the brats when we get there. Besides, Oddish can't learn Razor Leaf in Gen 3 without breeding, and it just ended up being grinded up and thrown into the box for the rest of the game. And now we come to what is considered one of the hardest fights in Pokemon, the Route 110 rival battle. Though I didn't expect this battle to give me much trouble. And it didn't! Everything goes down easily to Magician's Red, being about 20 levels above the curve at the time. There's nothing that resists her double kicks on his team, and Shroomish is carefully taken care of with an Ember to prevent Effect Spore from taking effect. Next fight is Wally, and defeating him is a piece of cake, as it always is. Well, most of the time. Though it kinda sucks that you have to take this sickly child's dream, the one dream that gives him hope and has given him the meaning to live, and you savagely just chew it up and spit it out right in front of him, just to prove a point. Like, come on game. Let him win so Watson can destroy his hopes, not me. Speaking of, it's time to crush that old fart's soul. Fight's easy, not too much to say about it, though I feel if it had been Emerald and Watson had whipped out that Manectric, it wouldn't have been as simple and would have perhaps taken far more preparation. Thank God we didn't have to deal with Quick Attack though. His whole team goes down to Magician's Red without a hitch. The only note on this fight is that I opted for Ember instead of Double Kick on his Voltorb to avoid activating Static and run the risk of paralysis leaving me vulnerable. The Dynamo Badge is ours, and now Risotto can take his spot as the temporary HM slave of the team. I give him Rock Smash. Breaking rocks is the only thing he's good for in this run. How's that adamant nature treating you, Risotto? Having fun wasting your life away in a PC and only coming out to remove obstacles? That's what you get for having a special attack lowering nature on a Pokemon that has 2 special types before the physical special split! Ahem. Plant abuse aside, we're ready to hit the road and take a pilgrimage across the region. The plot completely stops here for a bit with no noteworthy battles, so I will take the time to talk about today's sponsor. Have you all heard of a game called Raid Shadow Legend? Nah, I'm just messing with y'all. Our sponsor is me! Subscribe if you want to see more Pokemon content, along with the occasional weird Let's Play stream. I've been on a bit of a break lately, but there's more content coming soon, so hit that subscribe button and the notification bell to see more of my content. Now, back to the show. Blah blah blah, head to Fall Arbor, save Professor Cosmo in Meteor Falls, head to Mount Chimney. You all know the drill. The big battle for this section of the game is the one against Maxie, and oh boy, I was underprepared. Even with Magician's Red being level 40, Okos were not guaranteed. My Deanna is able to hurt our attack stat with Intimidate. Even when it goes down in one hit, there's the rest of the team to worry about. Camerupt is bulky enough to live a hit. I thought that I would have to give up the fight and go grind, but fortunately, Camerupt decided to use focus energy rather than attacking, so it didn't land a hit on Magician's Red. Maxie tried to heal his Pokemon, but it was in vain as another double kick was enough to finish it. We're not out of the woods yet though, as Golbat is next. Golbat barely tanks an Ember, though it opts for Supersonic instead of attacking me. It manages to land, but Magician's Red, the ever-powerful deity she is, gets through and takes out the Golbat on the next turn. I don't know how I did this one on my first try, and frankly, had RNG not been in my favor, I would have probably had to grind. Yeah, I know, I need a stronger Fire-type move. But Blaze Kick was unreliable with 85% accuracy, and unfortunately, Blaziken can't learn Flamethrower by level up. For some reason, it loses the ability to learn it after evolving. I can't understand Pokemon logic. I do know that it is available as a TM in the Mauville Game Corner. I just wasn't thinking at this point in the game, having taken comfort in Magician's Red's prowess, but then again, when do I think? How poorly this run was executed should be a testament to that, lest you not know me and how scatterbrained I can be. Also, yeah, I saw Narantia in the party and I didn't use him. Oh well. Moving on from that super lucky fight, it's time to plan for Flannery. I knew I couldn't just run in, guns blazing, and take her on, unlike Brawley and Watson. Flannery's Torkoal is a worrying asset to her team, as it has a high defense stat, meaning that even though Magician's Red is several levels above the curve, a double kick couldn't take it out. Obviously, the resistance to the already weak Ember didn't help either, and even with Torko's lesser special defense stat, it wouldn't be an Oko. So I figured it was time for Narantia to shine. I grinded on Jagged Pass for the most part. Narantia had the experience share on so that while Magician's Red was gaining levels, he could as well. Most everything here goes down in one hit, except for Spoink when it has thick fat, so I just ended up running away from it frequently to not run the risk of taking damage. When Narantia finally evolved, I decided to continue training him on Route 112 for optimal grinding. The levels were lower, but it was much faster with the guaranteed Okos and no Spoinks to worry about. I kept checking the damage calculator to see if I was strong enough to take out Flannery's Torkoal, and at level 40, we were ready to fight her. The fight went down as easily as you'd expect. All of her Pokemon went down in one hit. Psychic was my move of choice, it being a formidable move that packs a punch when combined with Gardevoir's high special attack. Even that pesky Torkoal was easy to take down. The Heat Badge is now ours, and our next battle is with our daddy issues. Now, I know I could have just went into this after training Magician's Red up to a level that was sufficient to Oko Norman's entire team, but no. I wanted to have some fun. I wanted to troll the heck out of this man and wound his pride. The whole time I had been dependent on brute strength rather than strategy, but this time around? Oh no. We're going in as weak as can be. I backtracked to Petalburg Woods and scooped up a Cascoon for the first step in my plan. I slapped the experience share on Steely Dan and went to grinding. At level 10, it evolved into a Dustox, but I wasn't done yet. Level 17 was my goal, and I even surpassed it by getting to level 20, though extra power was unnecessary. The next phase was heading back to Mount Chimney. I used Risotto to do the strength puzzle there and scooped up the TM for Toxic. I wouldn't need it later, as there's no other time in this game that I'd be able to do a strat like this, so I had no qualms using it on this fight. After using the TM on Steely Dan, we're ready to take on the fight, and I think this needs no narration. Just watch. With Norman emasculated, it's time to move on and head towards Fortree City for the second half of the game. I will make a little confession here. For the sake of dramatic effect, I omitted the part where I caught an Electrike after Steely Dan's grinding. My reasoning behind catching the Electrike is that I wanted to have it already gaining experience during the fight, so there was less of a grind ahead of me for Winona's gym battle. It's a bit of a risky catch, as Electrike does have the capability to do damage, though catching Red Hot Chili Pepper went off without a hitch due to good RNG. I also caught a Zigzagoon to be my HM slave after the Norman fight. I needed a Surfer, though this is only a temporary thing, as I have a way better Pokemon coming up that is far better than Zigzagoon. Sorry, Risotto and Aqua Necklace, your purpose is brief and meaningless. As soon as I hit the eastern shore of Route 118, I obtained the good rod from the fisherman there. I fished up another Pokemon that I knew would be useful in this run, Carvanha. Sharpedo, its evolution, is crazy fast and hits like a truck. I knew that this would be an in-game Pokemon, and trust me, at this point, I was thinking pretty hard about the Elite Four and how I wanted my team to look. Sharpedo is definitely a valuable asset, though catching Carvanha is extremely dangerous, as it does know attacking moves. I ended up resetting 3 times to get this thing, once because it had a bad nature, the second because it broke free and damaged Magician's Red, and then I finally got a naive-natured Carvanha on the 3rd attempt. Welcome to the team, Clash. Now it's finally time to get on the road. The Weather Institute isn't noteworthy, except for the fact that the Mystic Water is on the Gift Cast form, and is a great item for Clash. Though Cast form isn't any kind of help to the team. Sorry, Weather Report. I regret to inform you that you'll spend the rest of your days rotting in the box. Before the next Brendan fight, I trained up a bit on the grass on Route 119. Not because I was worried about this battle or anything, but because I wanted to give Red Hot Chili Pepper a few extra levels before hitting Fortree. Don't ask why I did it then. I don't know either. I suppose it was just the appeal of having the quick healing spot of the Weather Institute in proximity to a decent grinding area. Again, Brendan is easy. You'd think at this point in the game he'd have more than 3 Pokemon, or at the very least that they would be better Pokemon. No, you know what? Since this battle is just 3 Okos, I'm gonna take a second to roast this man. Dude, you have a level 29 Shroomish. It was supposed to evolve 6 levels ago. I guess he's just afraid to evolve it and have 3 Pokemon with a quad weakness? How did you even get this far in the game? Norman's ace was the same level as yours. How did you even beat him? I know you did not win with this crap moveset and these low stats. So what's the deal, Brendan? Didn't you say at the beginning of the game that you had years of experience as a trainer? Then why does your team suck so badly? Moving past that simple fight, it's Fortree time, though at this point, I am not ready. I know that her fight will take a bit more planning. Even in vanilla run, she's a bit of a hassle, so yeah, this battle is going to be a complete and utter nuisance. For some reason, I don't have footage of me grinding before Winona. Like, one clip has Red Hot Chili Pepper at level 34, and then the next at level 50? I'm unsure where exactly I grinded for this, but it was either back on Route 119 or on Route 121. Either way, the grinding got done, and I had a strategy in mind for this fight, or, well, what Pokemon I was going to use anyway. There's really no strategy to Okoing. Winona leads the fight with her Swellow. I lead with Magician's Red, who is now level 50. This is where there is a divide between a Purist run and a safe Scumming run. A Purist probably would have trained Blaziken up until it could hit Quick Attack hard enough to Oko, or would have gotten a Pokemon with a better priority move. This would be for safety purposes, as the Swellow has its own Quick Attack, and there's absolutely no room for error in a Purist run. For me, taking this thing down was more of a crapshoot than anything. Double Kick was enough to take down Swellow, and luckily it didn't use Quick Attack, so it went down on the first try. Skarmory was a simple foe. Ember was enough to do the job and take it out. The next Pokemon is Pelipper, which walls Magician's Red. This is where Red Hot Chili Pepper came in. Now, honestly, he probably would have been able to take this thing down at level 34, but I hella overtrained for this fight, so I ended up absolutely eviscerating this Pelipper. Winona's final Pokemon is Altaria, who is the best member of her team and honestly terrifying. I sent a now level 55 Neurontia out to do the work. You may be asking me, Pink, why did you choose Gardevoir of all Pokemon when Altaria's special defense is higher than its defense? Well, truth is, I just didn't have any good physical attacks for the thing. Sure, yeah, I have Magician's Red, but Double Kick is resisted, and Gardevoir was the best special attacker on my team at the time, so I grinded it up to the level that guaranteed a Psychic Oko on Altaria. And it did. After everything, the Feather Badge is ours. The next important battle is with Brendan and Lilycove. It's honestly so laughable. Once again, Okos galore. Swellow could be a threat with Quick Attack, but again, if you're worried about that killing your run, just get a Pokemon with a better priority move, or train Blaziken up to the proper level to take it down in one hit with a Quick Attack. Numel is just 1 level off from evolving, so oof, sorry about your luck, pal. Clash would have destroyed it anyway, though. And he still hasn't evolved that darn Shroomish, though this fight could have been more challenging if it had arms for Mach Punch, so perhaps it's a good thing that it stayed unevolved. And shoot! Wouldn't you know it, the Pokemon with the most potential on his team, Marshtomp, is still stuck in its awkward teen years. We'll never get to see Brendan put together a decent team, as this is the final fight with him in the game. Sorry, bud. You're decent in the remake. From here, it's just a bunch of plot and backtracking. We take on Mount Pyre with ease, head back to Slateport to see Team Magma steal the submarine, make our way back to Lilycove and plow through the base. Magma admin Tapitha is simple, though it took a bit of foresight. Numel goes down easily to Magician's Red's attacks, though I have to switch on camera up to ensure that it can be Oko'd. Neurontia, being the strongest member of the team at this point, is our go-to for any strong opponents too beefy to be taken out by Double Kick or Ember. The final member of the team, Mightyena, is an easy Double Kick away from fainting. Next up is the gym battle that I've been dreading since the beginning of the game, Tate and Liza. Taking these two out on the first turn of the battle is absolutely essential. My main player for this fight would be Clash, so I needed to get him up in levels. I grinded tirelessly on Route 121 to get him to level 48, with the level I knew would be enough to take out both with a Surf. A shiny Duskull reared its cherry head, but I was unable to catch it as it ended up damaging me and I had to go back to my previous save. That would have been a cool addition to the team, but perhaps not the best. The strategy I initially had for this battle was to send out Clash and Steely Dan. Clash would use Surf to hit both opponents, and Steely Dan would protect and bait out a flamethrower and a psychic in case Surf didn't OHKO. Though, unfortunately, this strategy didn't work, and Solrock decided to target Clash instead of Steely Dan for the flamethrower. Individually, Clash could have taken them both out with a Surf, but because of the fact that moves that hit both opponents are weaker in double battles, this makes this tricky. Basically, I need a Pokemon that can back Clash up and finish off the two on the first turn. I headed back to Route 119 and scooped up a Tropius. This fight is why I wanted a Grass type who was capable of learning Razor Leaf earlier in the run, but Tropius is honestly the best choice at this point. I returned to grinding on Route 121 with the experience share on Moon, and I had Clash up front just to get him some extra levels. The grinding was long and tedious though, and by the time I had Moon up to level 43 and raring for the fight, Clash was already at level 57. So it's finally time to return to Tate and Liza to kick butt and take names. The basic strategy is just for Clash to weaken them, and then Moon can... oh, it's already over. I guess I got Clash up enough levels to OHKO them. Well, shoot. That's time I'm never gonna get back. At least I have a flyer now, I guess. Now it's time to chase Team Magma to the seafloor cavern. The journey there is straightforward, with no bumps in the road. I ended up just teaching Clash Dive, as I didn't really see the point in bothering too much with HM Slave. After all, I only use certain moves to maximize OHKO chances, so other moves besides my primary attacking ones don't exactly matter all that much. The final Maxi battle is easier than the first. The only thing that is concerning is the attack drop from Mightyena, but now that we have more Pokemon to switch into, taking him down is much easier. After Mightyena goes down to a double kick, I switch into Clash and have him take out Camerupt with a Surf. Then, for Crobat, Red Hot Chili Pepper gets some time in the spotlight. It's good that I have a fast Pokemon to take care of this thing, as Crobat could be a threat otherwise. But the levels I have on him is enough to give Crobat a disadvantage, and I'm able to take it down. With Maxi down, it's time to head to the Cave of Origin and save the world from a large-scale heat death. Though, I make it sound more exciting than it actually was. The battle against Groudon is pretty uneventful, as I threw the Master Ball and it was over. I'm fairly sure I could have taken it out if I wanted to, but I wanted to have the option of it for my team. Though, spoiler alert, it just ends up chilling in the box for the rest of the game. Sorry, King Crimson. You would have been cool, though might have been a bit of a cheese in retrospect. The villain plot of the game is finally over, and all that stands ahead of us are the final gym and the league. It's at this point that I was seriously considering what I wanted to do for the Elite Four and the Champion. I was going through some mental checklists for type coverage. What I definitely needed that I didn't have already was something to take on Drake, and the obvious answer is an Ice type. It didn't occur to me for some reason that I could go on and get Regice, but then again, that would take some backtracking and risky catching, especially since I had already used my Master Ball, and as I said before, cheesy. Very cheesy. Instead, I settled on Glalie, mostly because it has a speed advantage over Walrein. Though, in all honesty, Walrein may have been a better pick, as it has a higher base stat total, better special attack, and I don't have to wait till low tide to go catch it in Shoal Cave. Despite this, the fact that Walrein would have made a better pick, I had to fix the internal clock as Run Dry issue, wait, and then had to go find and catch Snorunt, which is a 10% encounter rate, yet never wants to show up. Despite all these facts, I did not pick Spheal. I don't know why I didn't just pick Spheal. I much prefer its line over Snorunt anyhow. To add insult to injury, the one that I caught had an impish nature, which is one of the worst possible natures I could have gotten on this run. It ups defense and lowers special attack, which is obviously really, really bad for the set of rules we're under. Though for some reason, instead of going out and catching another, I just decided to keep the crappy nature. No, I wasn't being lazy, I just wanted more of a challenge. I simply slapped an experience share on Pet Shop and headed to make preparations for Wallace. Much like his girlfriend Winona, Wallace was going to take a bit more planning than the average gym fight. His water types are bulky, sporting high special defense and defense stats. It definitely won't be an easy OHKO for all of them, especially with the pathetic movesets we're sporting. There was a lot to do before we could even think about taking him on. After running some numbers in the Showdown damage calculator, I knew it would be ideal to have a stronger electric move on Red Hot Chili Pepper as opposed to Spark. Unfortunately though, Manectric doesn't learn Thunderbolt naturally, and I refused to have it learn Thunder, as it's far too inaccurate for comfort. So I did the new Mauville side quest to obtain the Thunderbolt TM. This wasn't good enough to take on Wallace though. I needed a bit more power, and truth be told, Hoenn doesn't have any good grinding spots at this point in the game. I got up a few levels by grinding underwater, but it was going to be a long stretch to get the levels that I required to Oko most of his team. So in order to spare myself some grinding time, I went back to Route 110 to take on the Trickmaster's house. One of the rewards for going through his puzzles is a magnet, which boosts the power of electric type move. This would be an advantageous item, not just for this fight, but anytime I needed to whip out Red Hot Chili Pepper later on. I did some big brain plays with the ice puzzle before heading to Wallace. At this point, Red Hot Chili Pepper was level 57, knew Thunderbolt, and had the magnet equipped, so he was more than ready to take on this battle. From here on, it was a slaughter. Nearly everything fell to Thunderbolt, even the mighty and bulky Milotic. The only thing I had to switch out for was Wishcash, and Seamoon, though not trained for this fight, was able to take it out with a magical leaf. Finally, the 8 badges of Hoenn are ours. All that is left to do is take on the Pokemon League. Well, I wish it was that simple, but we in fact have some preparing to do before that. Not only do we need to get trained up for these final fights, but I also need to do some calculations to properly plan out what we're going to need to do. For one, not everyone in the team needs to be trained up. In fact, some of our past aces won't even end up having a role in taking on the league. I determined all of this based off of looking at the Pokemon teams of all the Pokemon League members and taking into account what would be optimal for our final team. First things first, Magician's Red's moveset needs an update. We've gone through the whole game without updating her moveset from when she was still a Combuskin. I scoop up Brick Break from Pseudopolis to replace Double Kick, plus I spend way too much money on coins in Mauville to grab Flamethrower from the game corner. Charcoal and Never Melt Ice are 2 items I probably should have gotten and ended up not doing it. It probably would have saved me some time on grinding and helped me sweep the Elite Four more efficiently, but as I said, I didn't get it. Shoulda, woulda, coulda. The Black Glasses, however, is an item that I did pick up to help cover Phoebe's ghosts. It just packed a bit of an extra punch to ensure some Okos. All that's left to do now is grind, and grind I did. Oh boy, it was hours upon hours of trying to get to the proper level for all my Pokemon. Victory Road is a mostly safe place to grind, but there are a few Pokemon to be wary of. Both Hariyama and Makuhita have Fake Out, and won't always go down in one hit, so they're best to be avoided. Golbat is a great source of experience and speed EVs that came in helpful on Pet Shop later on, but if they have good IVs and or a special defensive nature, they may not go down so easily. So really, it's not a mindless process, but it's one that you can easily get into the rhythm of after you've been doing it for, 2 hours. After tireless training, our team is finally ready to advance on. Our 3 main players are all up to snuff, and all that's left to do is to take Victory Road by storm. One final battle stands between us and the league, and that is the one with Wally. Wally isn't the pushover that he was. He now has a pretty stacked team, though it is most certainly no match for our own. Pet Shop is my lead, as Wally sends out his Altaria first. Ice Beam absolutely decimates it. Magician's Red comes out next to take out Delcatty, then Clash to defeat Gardevoir, then Magician's Red again to take out the Roselia and Magneton. The fight is simple, but not as insultingly easy as Brendan's. Rivalship ended with Brendan. Wally is my new rival now. Without further ado, it's time to head to the league. We can go straight inside as there are no healing items we need to purchase, and all of our other preparations were already done before we got here. The first member of the Elite Four is Sydney, a Dark type user. My obvious lead and main fighter is Magician's Red. Sydney's lead is Mightyena, which has Intimidate to lower my attack. Though, this isn't much of an issue, as I'm a good 30 levels over him. His next 2 Pokemon, Shiftry and Absol, also fall to Brick Break. Next up is his Sharpedo, and even though Magician's Red could easily take this thing out with Brick Break, I swapped to Red Hot Chili Pepper. Thunderbolt is good enough to take Sharpedo down while avoiding rough skin damage. Then it's back to Magician's Red to finish off Cacturne with a Flamethrower. Sydney is done, and next up is Phoebe. This one wasn't just a series of Okos like most battles. The opening Dusclops goes down easily enough with the Black Glasses boosted Crunch from Clash. The next Pokemon, however, is Sableye, and oh boy, this was one Pokemon that I was a bit worried about. Until Gen 6, Sableye had no weaknesses, meaning that Clash just had to feint this thing through sheer force and willpower. Turns out, I just missed the Oko, and it was only on like 1 hit point. Sableye used Attract, which would severely hinder Clash. I knew Phoebe was going to heal in the next turn around because predictable AI, so I swapped to Magician's Red for the Flamethrower Oko. After that Gremlin was down, the rest of the Pokemon were a simple sweep from Clash. Each and every one of them were treated to a crunch, and they all went down easily. Now it's time for Glacia. Not much to say about her. Magician's Red took down both of her Glalie with Flamethrower, and the rest of the Mons went down to Brick Breaks. This fight was mainly the reason I had to get Magician's Red up so many levels, as I needed enough strength to take down the Walrein. Though it's good I did train up, as Magician's Red will be the key player in Steven's fight as well. But before we can do his fight, we have to take on the final member of the Elite Four, Drake. Lucky for me, the vast majority of his Pokemon are quad weak to ice, so the special attack decreasing nature didn't hinder Pet Shop at all. Well, moving on from that, it's finally time to face off with the champion of the Hoenn region. We've made it this far unscathed, and I don't plan on changing that now. Steven's lead is Skarmory, mine is Magician's Red. Magician's Red is going to be the star of this fight, but there's also support from other members, and Skarmory goes down to a Flamethrower, and then Aggron comes out. A Brick Break is more than sufficient. Metagross goes down next, melted to nothing by Flamethrower. Armaldo is the next foe, and I switch out to Clash to capitalize on its water weakness. Then the Credilli comes out, and so does Magician's Red. Besides the Walrein and Celios that Glacia had, this thing was the main reason that I had to train up Magician's Red so high. Credilli is the bulk master, though it all paid off in the end as it goes down in a single Brick Break. The final Pokemon in Steven's arsenal is Claydol, a decently bulky Pokemon that I was worried about not being able to OHKO, but one Surf from Clash is enough to do it, and with that, it's time to register our names in the Hall of Fame. Each and every Pokemon documented hasn't taken a single point of damage in the canon of this run. They have triumphed, conquered, become legends without taking a single hit. Now, I know that this wasn't as hardcore a run as it could have been. A full run with no safe scumming would have taken a lot of planning, and honestly, I don't know if you guys would have believed me 100% of the time if I did a non-save run. Though, it is something that I would like to try one of these days. But I really do hope that my run will stand on its own merit. I avoided making things too RNG heavy and planned strategically rather than rushing in and resetting over and over. My goal was to have it theoretically be possible in a purist setting, and I think with some tweaking it could work well. If you'd like to see more of my content such as challenge runs, let's plays, and streams, please consider subscribing. I mean, it's not like we have much better stuff to do in quarantine, so why not check out my other stuff? Check out the links in the description for more of my socials, and join the Discord if you'd like. We have a wonderful little community here. If you like this video, why not like it? As I said, 2,000 likes and we'll do a no damage run stream. Leave a comment of what game you'd like to see this challenge done for, or just yell at me about how old challenge runs are getting or how I copied another YouTuber. Either way, helps the algorithm. For now, I'm done. I hope you all have a great day. Until the next one, stay safe, stay cool, keep it chill. Peace out. Bye!